name is Kyla Gerson, and this is my video for Histology 331 on the different layers of tubular organs. So here is my picture. I drew all the layers from the lumen out to the body cavity, and that's the direction I'll be explaining everything as well. So the first layer that is closest to the lumen is the tunica mucosa, and that layer can also be broken up into 3 layers in itself. So the first layer that is closest to the lumen in this layer is the lamina epithelialis mucosae. And that layer is just going to be epithelium cells, and the type can range from simple columnar to simple squamous epithelium. It just depends on the function of that organ. So say the esophagus is going to have simple squamous epithelium because it has to be more protective, while something like the duodenum is going to have simple columnar epithelium because that epithelium has to be a lot more active during the digestive process. So in my picture, I drew simple columnar epithelium. The next layer in this layer is going to be lamina propria mucosae, and that's going to be just a loose connective tissue that lays right under the epithelium, and that's going to be infiltrated with a lot of lymphocytes and will have some blood cells in it. The lymphocytes there make sense because that's the first line of defense in the body from whatever we are digesting or, swallowing, stuff like that. The next layer is going to be the lamina muscularis mucosae, and that's going to be a layer of smooth muscle, and that smooth muscle is a good indicator for when the tunica mucosa ends and the tunica submucosa begins, and its thickness can vary depending on what organ we're talking about. The next layer in the tunics is the tunica submucosa, and that layer is going to be some kind of connective tissue. It depends on what organ we're talking about. It can be loose or dense. Just depends. It's going to be infiltrated with things like glands. There's going to be a lot of big red blood cells in it. Its size can range drastically depending on what we're talking about as well. And there'll be submucosa plexus, which is just nervous ganglia. So in my drawing, I have a whole bunch of red blood cells in there. I tried to do some mucus glands and make those frothy looking circles, and I added a little ganglia at the bottom of it. And after that layer, we will have the tunica muscularis, and for the most part, that's going to be just a smooth muscle layer. Again, varies in thickness. And histologically, it will have 2 layers, a longitudinal outer layer cut and an inner circular cut. You can see how I drew that there. And it's smooth muscle for the most part because I can't tell myself to contract my stomach. I can't tell myself to contract my intestines, so it's going to have to be smooth muscle. And what does tell it is motor ganglia that is in that smooth muscle as well. So we have some plexus right here. Yeah. So the last 2-ish layers will be the tunica serosa and the tunica adventitia. Organ is going to have one or the other depending on what surrounds that organ. So if the organ is surrounded by the body cavity, it's going to be a tunica serosa, and if it's surrounded by connective tissue, it's going to be a tunica adventitia. So the tunica serosa is going to be a mesothelium or a simple squamish epithelium, and it will have some red blood cells in it. Its thickness can vary very drastically, again, depending on what we're talking about, and it is usually continuous with the mesentery to make a serous membrane around that organ. If the organ is all attached to connective tissue, it's going to be a tunica adventitia, which is just a continuation of that connective tissue pretty much, and it will have some red blood cells.